Hello everyone, this is Gene again with a nighttime video, and this one's going to be about Star Trek, in particular the new Star Trek Picard show coming out, and I've been hearing some rumblings, some concerns about how political it's going to be, so I just wanted to express my thoughts on that. But before I do that, first of all, I've noticed an uptick in my subscriber count. I'm assuming from the last two videos. So thank you so much to the new subscribers. Thank you for subscribing, hearing me out, liking the content. I hope you continue to enjoy it. I know it's a very simple, lo-fi setup, but I try. So thank you. I hope that you continue to enjoy the content, and for those who are already here, still happy to have you. Hope you continue to enjoy the content. I would also like to personally thank Tristan of Nerdette's Newsstand and a nice man named Simon Barrett. I'm not quite sure in the comments. They both mentioned in a video that they find me to be well-spoken, and I just want to say thank you to that, especially since I tend to not view myself that way. Actually, public speaking is not a natural skill I have. I am a classic introvert. Public speaking, especially when I was a teenager, was something you had to force me to do. I remember my English class for like 8th grade. Not 8th grade. I was like I was a junior in like high school. Junior, maybe going on to senior or whatnot. And they made me take a English class, and I had to do public speaking. My knuckles went white the first time that I did public speaking, and then I had to do it in college, and so it's been a journey. Let's just put it that way. And even now, public speaking is not exactly an easy thing for me, and I tend to notice the errors, like the stuttering or the losing my place, like I did just now. So thank you so much to you both for saying that. It means a lot. It means a lot, especially when it's something that I am a bit self-conscious about, I guess the term would be. And to anybody who has mentioned it before, maybe I didn't notice, but thank you too. But I'm just stressing these two since these are the most current. So before I get started, I need to rant a little bit. And no, it's not about the topic of the last two videos. It's about something completely different. And it's related to the concerns about the Picard series being, I would say, overly political, because this is Star Trek. So I was just reading the Variety article. I was originally reading I guess you would say a summary or an opinion piece on it by the Daily Wire. And I was like, well, you know what? Let me sort of see for myself. And my criticisms to this article from Variety are this. Number one, with all due respect to Sir Patrick Stewart's life, this article is supposed to be about Star Trek Discovery, not the story of his life. If you're going to write an article about his life, then label it that. Don't call it Star Trek Picard CBS All Access, right? Don't call it, let me scroll up to its formal title. 1 second. Don't call it Star Trek Picard, Patrick Stewart on why he returned to the final frontier. That title alone, the first 3 words, Star Trek Picard, are going to make readers think that it's about the show. Okay? And this article really isn't. This is more the story of his life. And that's all well and good. I don't mind hearing the story of his life, but not when it's supposed to be an article that's about Star Trek Picard. If there's any character you should be hearing the life about, it's about the life of Jean-Luc Picard, not about the life of the actor playing him. Number one. Number two, this article is ridiculously long and hard to get through. Number three, if you're not going to do your research, don't write the article. I want to repeat that. If you are not going to do your research, or if you are going to do your research and then leave things out, then please don't write the article. Now you may be wondering, well, Gene, what are you so upset about? Well, here's what I'm upset about. There are mentions in this article about the previous Star Trek series. In particular, the original one, right, Star Trek, and then the one Patrick Stewart is most famous for, Next Generation, right? The first mention, or at least one of the first mentions about the original Star Trek series from the mid-60s, is that it ran from 1966 to 1969 before it was canceled on CBS. That is indeed true. That's true. What the article does not mention is that the show was then picked up in syndication. And that's when people started noticing it and liking it, and that's where the Star Trek craze started. To me, that's omission. How did Elisa say it in Gargoyles? I think the phrase was, a lie by omission is still a lie. So that's how I view that one. Second, when Star Trek Next Generation is brought up, the article talks about and mentions that people were drawn in by the character of Jean-Luc Picard. Here's the problem with that. While he's the focus character, he's not the only character. Every Star Trek show has had an ensemble cast. A focus, yes, in the cast, which is the captain, up until Discovery. They've been made the focus character, the first officer, and then they just mucked everything up. But while there's always been a focus character, right, of the captain, there's always been an ensemble cast. Okay, you cannot talk about Star Trek Next Generation and Picard without talking about Riker and talking about Crusher and talking about Commander Data and talking about Worf and what's her name? Troy, and so many other characters. So to just say or to imply in the article that it was just about Jean-Luc Picard, in my opinion, is dishonest. And then it happens again with a reference to the original series, saying that the original series was a story about the journey of Spock and Kirk. No, it wasn't. It was Spock, Kirk. You couldn't at least add Bones? You couldn't add McCoy? With all the interactions he had with Kirk and Spock, you cannot mention McCoy. You can't mention Bones. And on top of that, right, by not emphasizing or bringing up the fact that that Star Trek, the original one, had a ensemble cast, means that you're overlooking Uhura, right, one of the first black women on nationally syndicated TV to not be a maid, right? And then you're overlooking Sulu, played by George Takei, right? Which for its day, mid-60s, Asian guy who is not depicted as an evil person or a fool, big effing deal. And you spit on that, in my opinion, when you just say, oh, it's about Kirk and Spock. No, it wasn't. It was not just about them. It was an ensemble cast. Get it right. If you're not going to get it right, or you're not going to represent it properly, don't cover it. Now that I've gotten my frustrations out about the article itself, no, I did not finish the article. I see no point in finishing the article when it's just going to, again, just be inaccurate trash, just like the Sausage Roll article that kept missing a few things about Kelly Sue DeConnick, like how she actually wrote Captain Marvel comics. But anyhow, the main thing I wanted to talk about in this video is the concern that Star Trek Picard is going to be political. Now, here's the first thing. Let's get something straight. This is Star Trek. So yes, the show is going to be political. Every Star Trek show has been political. Every Star Trek show has been impacted by the politics and social issues of its day, and each one has dealt with political issues within its own world, right? Whether it's the frosty antagonistic relationship between the humans and the Klingons in the original one, whether it's being diplomatic and having uneasy relations with the Romulans, I think it's the Romulans, yeah, in Jesus Christ. Why am I blanking? In Next Generation, there we go. Whether it's the Federation at war when it comes to DS9, right? Whether it's dealing with just keeping her ship in order with Voyager, or whether it's the what's the word I'm looking for? Whether it's the Federation and Starfleet, and by extension humanity, sort of stepping up to the adults table, as it were, in international or interspatial, would that be word? Interplanetary, there we go. Interplanetary space affairs in Enterprise. There's always been politics in Star Trek. It's always been impacted by the politics of its day, and it's always dealt with its own internal politics in its world. So, will there be politics? Yes. Will the see what I mean? See what I mean when I talk about being well spoken? But anyway, as I was trying to say, this show certainly is going to be impacted by the current politics of the day. Right? It's going to deal with Trump, and it's going to deal with Brexit, because those are big hot button issues, for better or worse. So the question is, so let's answer the first question. Will Star Trek have politics? Yes. Now the question is, how will Star Trek deal with those politics? And as much as I hate to say it, I don't think it's going to do well. I don't think it's going to approach these issues with the same amount of depth and nuance that the other series, even Enterprise, which, yes, I know, it's kind of the goofiest of all four of them, but I don't think it's going to approach its political inspirations, let's put it that way, of the day with the same nuance that other series approached their political influences. Because sadly, no one in Hollywood, including Mr. Patrick Stewart, wants to actually think about these issues and think about why they're against Brexit or against Trump. And I want to be clear, I'm not saying you can't be against them. I'm not saying that you can't have opposing views. But I'm asking people to think about those views. And sadly, in Hollywood, they don't think about those views or why they personally feel a certain way. They don't educate themselves on these issues. They talk down to the audience, they talk down to the common man or woman, but they don't actually ask themselves why they believe certain things. They follow blindly, right? Something that religious people are often accused of. They do just as well. They follow blindly, right? If the mainstream thing is to hate Trump, then they'll hate Trump. Even as Sturgeon mentioned beautifully, I must say, in the Kelly Sue Deconic video I did, right? You can look at his comment there, it was amazing. How he brought up that while he doesn't like Trump, right, he's also aware of the fact that the Ayatollah, right, is the head of a country that, kind of sort of forces people who are caught in same-sex relationships, forces, one of the members to sort of, change their gender so they won't be executed, right? And that's considered a mercy, right? That's not always what happens. But anyway, you can look at his comment. He said it much better than I did. But again, right, you have Kelly Sue saying that she's anti-Trump and pro-Iranian. Keep in mind, Middle Eastern governments in general tend to not be too progressive on views regarding women's rights and human rights and the rights of those who are not heterosexual. But I guess that doesn't matter so long as you hate Trump. But anyway, right, I don't think that this show is going to actually think about its politics, internally or externally. More importantly, this show is being executive produced and created by Alex Kurtzman, who in the Variety article is quoted as saying is that he wants to make the show in the Marvel mold, I should say. And all I have to say to that is, no. Not everything needs to be in the MCU mold, okay? Not everything needs to be in the MCU mold, okay? Because what happens with a mold? right? Everything comes out looking the same. That's the point of a literal mold, right? A cookie mold or anything else. It makes sure that everything comes out looking the same, which means that nothing's going to be unique. Nothing's going to be original. Nothing's going to be distinct. Even with Star Trek, each series was very distinct. The original series was about the Federation as explorers. Next Generation was about the Federation as diplomats. DS9 is the Federation in war. Voyager is basically disconnected from everything and everyone. Sort of like in a unexplored, uncharted territory, trying to get home. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Enterprise was about, or at least in part, was about humanity sort of finally taking their place at the table on the greater interplanetary scene, right? Sort of saying, hey, we're grown-ups to, show us respect. That was a huge thing with their conflict and uneasy alliance with the Vulcans in that particular series. So each show had its own flavor, right? Had its own themes and was very unique. In fact, one of the things I remember from DS9 very early in the show, might be the first or second episode, is when Q, you gotta love Q, right? Visits Cisco, right? And Cisco, he annoys Cisco kind of the way he used to do with Picard, and eventually Cisco has enough and he just pops Q in the face. And Q's like, you hit me. Picard never hit me. And Cisco responds with, I am not Picard, right? That was all you needed to know, that DS9 and Next Generation were not going to be the same. They were going to share some of the same characters, in particular Worf later on down the line, but they were not the same show. Just because they were both called Star Trek didn't mean it was the same thing. But if you put this show in the mold of Marvel, then not only are you taking it away from what it's supposed to be, Star Trek, not Marvel, now you're making it just like everything else Disney produces. Yay! I'm just quivering with anticipation. So sadly, I don't see this going well, as much as I hate to say it, because I love Star Trek, and I was really hopeful after the disappointment that was Discovery. But if this is the way they're going to approach things, and if they're going to promote the show in a variety article that can't even get the ensemble cast right, I don't have much hope. Interestingly enough, I was searching online just before I made the video, and it seems that the first episode is going to be airing on ABC All Access on January 23rd, I think it is. So not too much longer now. I don't know if I'll get a chance to see it, because I don't like downloading apps that I don't want to my phone into my knowledge. All Access, I think you have to pay for or something, and I really don't want to pay to watch a show that I have a good idea will disappoint me. It's like I didn't have to pay to watch the other Star Trek series that I liked, so why in the world should I have to pay to watch an episode of a show that I'm probably going to dislike? But anyhow, that's the video for right now. Let me know what you think, and I will see you all in the next one. Have a good night. Bye.